Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your new best mate for fantasy football in this 2020-21 footballing season. My name is Dan and today I've got for you a very special video indeed as we look for the next John Lundstram, the new revolutionary player who is gonna just be that great pick right from the start of the season to pick up loads of points that no one really is expecting it. So yeah, as we know, last season John Lundstram was a bit of an unknown quantity. No one really knew much about him. He came up from the promoted Sheffield team and he scored 144 points by the end of the season, just through being listed as a defender when in actuality he was very much a midfielder. So despite playing far further up the pitch, playing as an attacking midfielder, he was getting all of the clean sheet points from Sheffield United, who are a really good defensive team. And at the same time, because he was playing as so far forward up the pitch as an attacking midfielder, he was getting all of these goals and assists. And of course, defenders get extra points for their goals. Plus, he got the assist points and the clean sheets points as well, and loads of bonus points too. So he ended up being a fantastic pick, and yeah, he was certainly in my team. I was very grateful to have him at certain points in the season. So today we're going to be looking for the next version of John Lundstram, of Lord Lundstram, but it's not going to be quite as easy this season. There's no players, and it's unlikely that it's going to happen again. There's no players that are actually like full-on midfielders who have been mistakenly added as a defender. There's no mistakes in the game this year, and I have looked through all of the players to try and find some mistakes, but FPL have got them all right. But I think we can still get very close. So I have listed out some criteria today, and my criteria for finding the new Lundstram is it has to be a player who's listed as a defender but actually could be considered a midfielder. They have to have a cheap price. We're not talking about paying a load of money for a player. Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example, he's not in the mix. He has to be playing for a fairly defensively viable team, at least. A team that's going to be picking up at least some clean sheets. And he has to have a chance of being a first team regular as well. So players who are sort of peripheral players, like youth players, things like that. But we're not going to count them either because they're not really too useful, and we're not going to actually be able to play these players as part of our starting 11. So we do want players who we're actually going to play as part of our starting 11. So we are going to go through 4 players that I've identified as being the potential next John Lundstram. And yeah, this is really exciting, and I hope you do enjoy this video. And if you do, of course, please do consider subscribing to my channel. Loads and loads of FPL content here, pretty much every day. Not quite every day. I do need a break sometimes. But yeah, constant FPL content. If that's what you're into, that's what you want, then please do stick around. Turn on the notifications as well, so you never miss a thing. And we're going to help you dominate your mini leagues, and we're going to start off with getting you the guy in your team who's going to be the next John Lundstram. So let's go through some players. Number 1, and probably the best pick of these is Dallas. Stuart Dallas, the 4.5 million defender. So until last season, Stuart Dallas, he's always been a winger throughout his career, but under Marcelo Bielsa at Leeds, he has become an incredibly versatile player. He played pretty much every minute of all but a couple of games for Leeds last season, so he did play a lot of football. He played most of last season at left back or right back, but he did play a significant amount of games in right and central midfield as well. This is where, of course, he picked up a nice amount of goals, as you can see here. Leeds have also had the best defensive record in the Championship last season, which sort of parallels Sheffield United. Of course, Sheffield United the season before last had a really good defensive season in the Championship, and then came up and did well defensively in the Premier League as well. And I think Leeds could maybe potentially mirror that same success in defence. They don't have such a defensive style of football, but they do well defensively. It was certainly in comparison to the other Championship teams that have come up to the Premier League this season. So there is something to look at there. There's a parallel with Sheffield United a little bit. And based on FPL scoring and excluding bonus points, so this is a really interesting fact. So assuming the Championship players were all assigned points based on the FPL scoring system, Stuart Dallas would have been the second highest scoring player in the entire Championship League. So if Stuart Dallas was judged on FPL points and the whole Championship, every single player in the Championship was judged on FPL points, Dallas second highest scoring in the whole league. Now that's a pretty insane fact, and that alone sort of has to make you consider, wow, that's an interesting one. Maybe I should put him in my team out of the players who have got promoted. And you never know, he could have a couple of good games in midfield or in right midfield. You don't really know. Perhaps like he has a couple of good games there, and the manager decides, he played quite well in centre midfield, he played quite well in right midfield, maybe we'll try him out there for a couple more games. Or maybe Leeds have some injury issues further up the field, so if there's a winger that's missing or a central midfielder that's unfortunately got injured or suspended, Stuart Dallas would be the man to fill in there. Even at fullback, Leeds do like to push their fullbacks further up the pitch during attack, so kind of like Liverpool, but obviously to a lesser extent. So don't expect Trent Alexander-Arnold returns from Stuart Dallas by any stretch of the imagination, but they do have that similar sort of thing going on there. So we've got a nailed defender in a fairly defensive team who actually plays 40% of his football in midfielder, essentially, doesn't he, Stuart Dallas? So what's the catch? Well, statistically, Dallas looks great, and in FPL, that is kind of the most important thing. But there are concerns that Dallas is not ready for the step up to the Premier League football. Dallas at left back is kind of considered a weak link in that Leeds starting lineup, and Leeds could very well bring in new players to fill this position. And there's nothing specific that's been rumoured quite yet, but you do feel like that if Leeds were to sign a new left back, Dallas would be more of a utility man coming off the bench to fill in, rather than an actual starting man every week. So there is that slight concern there. But overall, if Leeds don't sign a new left back, this is definitely going to be a guy, Stuart Dallas, to keep an eye on. And I think if Leeds don't sign the left back, I think Dallas would go straight into my team as my personal new Lord Lundstram. Luke Ayling is probably the safer pick if you're going for a Leeds defender. But if we're going for the next Lord Lundstram, it's not about picking safe, is it? It's about absolutely going for it and trying to identify who's going to be the man. So yeah, we're going to move on to the next pick, and it's Alioski, who is a 4.5 million defender. If Dallas is the risky choice from Leeds defence, then Alioski is the absolute maverick choice. And if you are brave enough to go for this one, then credit to you. It's a pretty ballsy pick, and I love it. So regardless, when we're talking about the next Lundstram, Alioski has to be considered. The biggest clue is the big number on the back of Alioski's shirt, the big number 10. So he wears the shirt number 10 for Leeds, and Alioski was, when he signed originally for Leeds, he was signed as a left winger, and he scored 19 goals and got 16 assists in the 3 seasons he's been at the club, which is not too bad. He has often been deployed as a left back, hence why FPL have listed him as a defender. Interestingly though, through the 2019-20 Championship campaign, he actually only played about half of his games at fullback and the rest on the wing. So we can see here, 20 games at left back, 1 at right back, 15 at left midfield, 3 at right midfield. So he's slightly more games in defence, but it's pretty balanced there. Not surprisingly, most of his contributions occurred when playing on the wing. That's sort of just how it works, isn't it? So it's pretty tight as to whether Alioski should be considered a defender or midfielder, which is exactly what we're looking for when we're looking for our next Lundstram. Again, there are some drawbacks of choosing this player who got the same amount of goal contributions as both Dallas and Ayling last season. They all got the same, I think, 8 goal contributions last season. And although he played a lot, probably the vast majority of Leeds' games last season, he was often used from the bench. So when you look at how many games Alioski played last season, it doesn't really tell the whole picture because, as I say, he was often used from the bench. Alioski only started in about half of Leeds' Championship games last season. As we know, if we want to get the clean sheet points, we want a player who is starting and getting more than 60 minutes on the pitch, and that's why Alioski is a slightly more risky choice. But I mean, same sort of situation. If Leeds have some injuries or Alioski really impresses in the Premier League, which I do think is possible, well, then we may have found our next Lord Lundstram. Okay, next up. Ryan Sessegnon is a 5 million defender, so a little bit more expensive, probably just because he's playing for Spurs, but this could be an interesting pick. So it's actually a little bit surprising to me that Sessegnon is listed as a defender and not a midfielder, to be honest. I do think Jose Mourinho sees Sessegnon as a left back at Spurs. But over the past few years, I mean, he's played far more of his football at left wing. And who can forget the Championship season, for example, 2017-18, where he bagged 15 goals. Playing at the left wing. He got a few assists in that season as well. He was playing in the left wing pretty much the whole season, and that was at the age of 17 as well, so really impressive left winger, right? Last season, of course, he didn't really get too much game time, so his inclusion as the potential next Lundstram is not going to be if he plays for Spurs. It's going to be dependent on whether he gets a move to a Premier League club. So there have been some rumours of a loan move back to a Premier League newcomers, Fulham. Of course, he played for Fulham before, so there is a bit of a nice story there. Fulham back in the Premier League. Sessegnon could go there as a loan. He did struggle a little bit there last time when he played for Fulham in the Premier League a couple of seasons ago, but he was only 18 at the time, and I do think he'd do better this time around. The concern is that Fulham aren't a great defensive side and may struggle for clean sheets, and that's not particularly what we're looking for when we're looking for players listed as a defender. We want him ideally to play for a team that's going to get clean sheets. It's not just about attacking returns, so even if he signs for Fulham, he's playing high up the pitch and he's getting a few extra points for his goals. If clean sheets are few or far between, then I think perhaps we can do better. And I'd be far more interested if Sessegnon signed for Newcastle United. So it is very interesting, and Newcastle have been rumoured to looking at bringing in Sessegnon to their team, which of course Newcastle are far more reasonably defensive outfit than Fulham. If he was to sign for Newcastle and then play as a winger and yet still be listed as a defender, 5 million, probably playing a vast majority of games at Newcastle on the wing, perhaps the other side of Sam Maximan, could be Callum Wilson up front through the middle there as well, as a part of a really nice attack there. Newcastle getting clean sheets, Sessegnon getting goals and assists and stuff like that. You know, I appreciate this is a lot of ifs, but if the stars align here, which they very much could do, and by the time you watch this video, Sessegnon could very well have signed for another team in the Premier League already. If the stars align, we have ourselves a new Lord Lundstram, right? But yeah, it's wait and see what happens, what loan moves potentially materialise. If he stays at Spurs, then it's a no-go, I'm afraid. But yeah, there could be something here, so definitely want to keep an eye on. And finally, I've got Lamptey written down at 4.5 million. I think Lamptey does deserve a little bit of an honourable mention, even though he's not exactly a next Lundstram candidate. He doesn't fit all the criteria, I guess, but still there are some parallels. So he's a super cheap defender, he's likely to play the majority of games for Brighton, and he's actually going to be operating more as a right midfielder than a right back, as Brighton switched to a 3 at the back formation. I know that many other teams play with 3 at the back, so it's not exactly like Lundstram, but he is cheap, he is going to be playing far forward, and he's probably the safest pick on this list, but he's also the least Lundstram-y, so safe. Pretty nice pick in general in FPL, but yeah, not as Lundstram-y as the others. I think Dallas is the one tempting me the most at the moment. But yeah, those are the players I think could potentially be the next Lord Lundstram. I don't know if there's anyone that you've identified that you think might fill the similar criteria. I think I've covered most of them, but perhaps you've got a little tip of a player that could be the next Lundstram. So if you think of anyone, please do let me know in the comment section. If there's one player in this list you think, oh, I'm actually having a look at that player, I think I might put that player in my team, then please do let me know. I'm very interested to know what you guys are going to be doing with your teams. As you guys know, all of your comments, I read all of your comments. I try to answer as many as possible. Obviously, it's been a little bit more difficult recently. But I try to spend at least an hour or 2 hours a day just reading through comments and trying to reply to most of them. So I'll do my best to that. If you did enjoy this video, please do subscribe. It's really appreciated. I'm absolutely so appreciative of all the subscribers that are coming in now. Love you guys so much. It's so awesome to see it. It's amazing. I'm so humbled by it. So do keep that going. Like the video if you enjoyed what you saw today. Of course, and yeah, let me know what you think of the video, and yeah, I will see you on the next one. Hopefully we're going to be doing some videos on some championship teams soon, so dedicated videos to championship teams, which I know you guys are very keen to see, and there's going to be another draft video when the fixtures come out as well. So yeah, plenty to come. I've gone on for long enough now. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope to see you on the next one, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye bye.